1947, India breaks free. History chose Nehru, but what if it didn't? Imagine this. Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose survives. He comes back to India and takes control of a newly born nation. Would India be stronger or more dangerous? Would it be more united or controlled? Based on his speeches, actions, and ideologies, this is the India that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose would have built. But before getting into that, I found this piece because of which I thought it would be necessary for me to make this video. The post says, Supreme Court में entry बंद करा देंगे. CGI Suryakant to advocate who filed PIL seeking declaration that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's INA, Indian National Army, secured independence for India. This was rejected multiple times and the guy who filed the PIL was asked to leave. Otherwise, he would be banned from Supreme Court. This is the country that we live in, by the way. This is the freedom of speech we have at this point. This is the freedom of expression that we have at this point, and this is how we remember our own history. We have forgotten our own heroes, and somebody who wants to make our history clear is asked to leave, or he would be banned from the Supreme Court of India. Now let's see historically what exactly happened. First of all, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was the leader of Congress. He had to resign because his ideologies did not match that of Gandhi. Gandhi wanted non-violence. He wanted an independent India. That is the difference, right? After that, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was put into house arrest by the British because of his revolt and because of his influence in the revolution. Breaking which, Netaji had to leave India, go visit Germany. Now, that had a purpose and a route. First, he left his home, then he went to Afghanistan, then he went to Russia. From there, he went to Germany to seek a meeting with the supreme leader of Germany. There, he met him. He asked for the prisoner of war of the Indian British who the Germans were fighting. He wanted those prisoners of war and he wanted them back to India to hold a revolution against the British that the Germany was also fighting. The Germans agreed to that and he had an immediate alliance with the Germans, right? Leading to which he also had access to the Axis power, which another one was Japan. So he was escorted from Germany to Japan in a submarine so that nobody finds out about it. He goes to Japan, he gathers more people, he has his own INA rushing from Burma to Delhi, because of which the slogan Delhi Cholo, who were going up towards the north, because of which there was a nationwide mutiny. There were 3 prisoners of the INA who were hanged in Red Fort for defiance against the British. And their sacrifice marked the day which finalized the end of British era in this country, right? In the meantime, Netaji was also preparing to come back to India, which is when he suddenly, let's say, disappeared. I am a Bengali. I do not believe that he disappeared. We do not believe that he disappeared. We believe in other narratives, in other stories, in other theories, and we do not want to believe that Netaji died in Japan, right? He was martyred in Japan. We do not want to believe that. However, the reason the British left was because of Sepoy Mutiny. Sepoy Mutiny means the Indian soldiers that the British were using as a proxy to win the wars against other countries in World War II, they mutinized. They did not want to fight for the British anymore. Why? Because they had hope that the Indian National Army of Subhash Chandra Bose were coming to help them in winning the war against the British. And that is why the British packed their bags, made their own divisions, and they left. And that was the end of that story. And Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was never credited for the reason for which we are still independent in this country. Now, getting back to the topic at hand, to understand this alternative scenario of India, you need to understand the man himself. Netaji wasn't just a freedom fighter, he was a radical nationalist with a blueprint. He believed freedom was meaningless without power. He rejected slow democracy and he was openly supportive of socialism, planning, and militarization. In fact, Netaji once argued that India needed a forced March industrial revolution inspired by the Soviet Union. Not gradual, not with debate, but with speed, control, and discipline. Excuse me if I'm wrong about this, and I do not mean to hurt anybody's sentiment. But under Netaji's New India, this country would not be the democracy that we know of today. Instead, a highly centralized government, the power concentrated at the top with much faster decision making and fewer checks. He believed the unity of this nation matters more than political divisiveness, and that changes everything. Nehru's India believed in democracy with debate, multiple parties, and stronger constitution. But Netaji's India would have had stronger leadership with centralized authority, likely with a dominant ruling bloc. Would elections still exist? Most probably. But would there be much less tolerance towards ideological conflicts and divisive politics? Absolutely. Because for Netaji, national unity came first. Now, there would obviously be oppositions. Congress existed back then. The Muslim League wanted a separate country, and RSS wanted India to be a Hindu nation. However, these would be treated with either dissolution or punishment. Anyone who would have opposed this new regime would have either been retired by force, or if there was any terrorist attack by a single group, that group would be punished to set an example, resulting in no Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Kashmir conflict, because anti-nationalism would have meant punishment. And even the thought of division would have resulted in much less tolerant measures. Netaji wanted a strong and disciplined nation, not a country divided by religion, caste, or borders. As a result, there would have been no deaths on either side of India because of partition. Gandhi wouldn't have been shot, Pakistan wouldn't have turned into a terrorist nation, Bangladesh wouldn't need to be liberated from West Pakistan, and probably, and this is emphasis, straight emphasis on probably Burma would have joined back into a greater India. The only possible enemy to this united India would have been China, and most probably that rivalry would have still continued on till date. Now let's talk economy. Netaji's India would not have been a slow and progressive growth, it would have exploded into industrialization. His economic model was very clear. He wanted state controlled industries, he wanted massive factories, he wanted heavy focus on steel, machinery, and defense, and strict economic planning from day one. Zamindars gone. He openly called for abolishment of landlordship and he wanted to redistribute land to farmers. Farmers would get land and industries would be centralized. Best case scenario, faster GDP growth, early industrial domination, and a much stronger self-reliant economy. Worst case scenario, bureaucratic inefficiency, black market, and economic stagnation like the USSR. Now let's talk military because this is where Netaji changed India the most. Unlike Nehru, Netaji actually trusted the military. And unlike Gandhi, who wanted to dissolve the Indian army after independence because having an army goes against his philosophical ideology of non-violence, Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose was the one who got us independent because of his Indian National Army. So he wanted a strict and disciplined military for this nation, and the army would have been an integral part of this new India. Under Netaji, there would have been massive defense spendings, domestic weapons productions, and possibly compulsory military service. He believed India must build its own weapons immediately, not import them, not depend on anybody else for it. And possibly India might have actually won the 1962 war with China without relying on anybody else. And that would have impacted the Chinese morale for a very long time. Under Nehru, India stayed neutral. Under Netaji, not a chance. He believed in strategic alliances, not moral superiority. Some likely moves would have been closer ties with the Soviet Union, much limited trust with the US and the UK, and aggressive diplomacy based on national interest. But here's the twist. Freedom comes with conditions. And if unity was threatened, freedom would have been restricted and democracy would not work. In Netaji's true vision, India would have been far more socialist, believing in equality with no division or hate within the people. India would also have been a feminist nation taking inspiration from Netaji himself. Indian rules would have been far less lenient, leading to the general public fearing consequences if they indulged in corruption, crimes, or red tapeism, which would have led to much less crime rates, poverty-related issues, and much better civic sense among the people. Every child in this new India would have compulsory education and military training, giving them strong discipline and knowledge. And finally, India would have been a self-sufficient nation who could stand strong in front of global threats. In the end, Netaji's India would not just be different, it would be faster, harder, and much more dangerous to get wrong. History chose one path, but this was what could have happened if we chose strength over debate. So no, Netaji and his INA did not secure the independence that we live in today. His vision for an independent India was far more pragmatic, self-reliant, and disciplined. Now it's on us to choose which India we want to live in, the one we have or the one envisioned by Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose. There is still time to make change for better and make Netaji proud. Jai Hind.